Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. My name is Justin.
And I'm Emily.
And you are watching That Christian Vlogger. We like to say that this is a place where you get to join us and experience faith in the first person. And on today's episode, we are answering a question that comes from you guys.
Yeah, so the question is, from Young and Bless, can you give some advice on desiring success? For example, financial success. Many Christian guys and girls want to be able to afford nice things and sometimes get confused on what the Bible is saying about being prosperous. That's a really good question.
Yeah,
what do you
awesome.
think?
Well, I think that this is actually a very common question. I mean, how many of us want to be successful, right? Like every single one of us, right? I mean, you could ask it a different way. How many of you guys don't want to be successful, or how many of you guys want to be unsuccessful? Of course not. I think if anything, God is glorified in all aspects of our life. You know, the Bible says that do everything to the glory of God. So what brings God more glory, when we are successful or when we're unsuccessful? So I would say, it's not a sin to want to be successful. In fact, we were talking earlier about several people in the Bible who were successful, right?
Yeah, exactly. To mention a few, like Joseph was really successful. He wasn't successful for like the first part of his life, but then he got really successful because he's remained faithful to God.
Became the prime minister of Egypt or something.
Of the greatest nation in the world, because he kept trusting in God. I think that's the main key is don't desire success and think you can do it all on your own, but really trust in God that He can bring you those blessings.
So as you're seeking success, maybe realize where your strength, where your abilities come from. So not saying, oh, I made myself, but recognize through humility what God has done through you, right? Now, this doesn't mean that you don't work hard, that you don't take advantage of every opportunity that you have, that you study, that you work, and you do all the things that you shouldn't do, or should do, but, at the end of the day, you realize where that success comes from.
Yeah, exactly. So, really, from God,
One thing that I would love to add to this conversation is really, what is your definition of success? Probably one of my favorite quotes of all time comes from Francis Chan, where it says that our greatest fear shouldn't be of failure, but our greatest fear should be of succeeding at things in life that don't really matter. So that's really what my question actually back to you is what is your definition of success? If your definition of success is to simply be as rich as possible, well, maybe that's not the best definition of success. I would like to think, God has made us multifaceted as human beings, that success really should have many different components. Certainly financial is one of the components, but what about your health? What about the quality and the depth of your relationships? What about the impact that you have on the world? What about your education and your family? And there are many different ways that one could define your version of success. And I think it's important as Christians for us to submit our personal definition of success to what God reveals to us as true success is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think on the flip side of that, have you ever had a moment in your life where you were shooting for success and then you totally failed? Can you think of people in the Bible who just had failures and God didn't bless them in the end? I really can't think of any. Even Job, after all he went through, losing everything basically, he remained faithful and God really blessed him in the end. People have actually made mistakes like King David and, committed adultery and all that stuff. And God did bring him some consequences due to that. Didn't his son die? His son died, but he still remained a man to this day after God's own heart. So I can't think of anybody in the Bible who they made mistakes and maybe they weren't faithful to God, but they were still successful in the end. So I think we can really take that to heart, because I think I've had a lot of failures in my life, where I haven't had success, but then the times where I pushed through those failures and remained faithful to God, there is success in the end. So
yeah, and I think maybe that's actually where we can derive, probably at the core of what success in the Christian life really ought to be, is faithfulness to God. Because, Jesus said, what does it profit a man if he gains the entire world but loses his soul? In other words, Jesus is saying you could be successful at literally everything in life except for being faithful to God. What's the point of that? Jesus is asking the question. And, the obvious answer is it's worth nothing. So, at the core of what success needs to be and what the core of success means to the Christian is faithfulness to God. Now, it's interesting because God has a different calling on every person's life. Sometimes God calls you to a different area than He calls me or Emily. You know, and so it might actually be that God calls you to be, you know, a poor missionary overseas, or a poor missionary like me in the United States or something like that. But it also could be that God calls you to be like very wealthy and to be very like affluent. Yeah, like that actually could be the way that God is calling you and your life. So you have to be very present with God. You have to be very like willing to listen to God wherever it is that He might lead you. And who knows, maybe God's desire for you is to become a professional football player, to gain this, you know, this massive audience like Tim Tebow. Think about all the good that Tim Tebow is doing with all his mission work and things like that. And he has the opportunity to use football as a platform to be faithful to God. So, you know, who knows what type of calling God has in your life, but at the core of it all, faithfulness to God really ought to be the thing that you are striving for when it comes to success.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question. When you think of the single person who's been the most successful, like in all of Earth's history, who is the single person that you can think of has been the most successful ever, like in all of time?
Jesus.
There you go. No, that's what I was fishing for. You know,
he was perfect, so there we go.
That sounds pretty successful, right? And it reminds me of this verse in Luke chapter 2. It says that Jesus grew in wisdom and in stature, in favor with God and in favor with men. So that is physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually. So Jesus wasn't so radical in any one of these extremes, but Jesus was constantly growing in all four of these different areas in his life. So, I mean, think about it this way. Have you met people that are like maybe super, super spiritual, like they read their Bible all the time, they're always praying, but they have no real depth of relationships with other people, or they have, you know, terrible health, or whatever the case is. So when I think of the most successful person in the world, Jesus, I look at his model in life, especially as he's growing up as a young man in that chapter. Jesus was constantly growing in all four of these areas. And for me, that's a model that I want to follow after. You know, obviously ministry is something that's important to me and to Emily as well. That's why we're doing this. But it's not the only thing that we do. You know, we also go to the gym, you know, a couple times a week.
We've been getting better at that.
Thankfully, we've been getting better. We've fallen off the wagon for a while, so we're trying to practice what we preach. But, you know, also we try and spend time with friends. You know, we try to do all these different things. And so one of our goals is not to just be so one-dimensional that we're lacking in other areas. We want to be well-rounded. And I think that's partially also what true success really boils down to.
Yeah. Because if you're doing, like, you're striving for, like, being the top boss at your career, getting all these promotions, your family life is probably really going to suffer because you're putting in overtime and all these things, and oh my goodness,
Yeah. Or So you know, being well-rounded is, I think, super important in this definition of success that you are discovering that the Bible talks about. So faithfulness to God is something that we talked about, and also being well-rounded. You know, again, bringing it back to the Bible. Whatever you eat, drink, do, whatever you do it to the glory of God. So that's trying to be excellent in all areas of your life, and you know. I think when you chase after that with a heart to give God the glory, then I think that's when God grants you true success.
Yeah.
But that is where we are going to leave the video with you guys. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with us, disagree? Any verses that you might add, or any definition of success that you might change as well? Let us know in the comment section below.
Yes. But until that time.
We've done this 20 times.
But until next time, we're that Christian vlogger, and we encourage you to experience Facebook. One more time. But until next time, we're that Christian vlogger, and we encourage you to experience faith in the first person. God bless. Face in the first person. How you've seen success happen in your life.
I was gonna try and help you, and then you're like, get out of my way. Let's do it one more time.